Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at this Your Overseas Home webinar, which today will be focused on moving to Cyprus and what you need to know about visas and healthcare. My name is Hannah and I'm one of the team here at Your Overseas Home. Now, our aim as a business is to assist you in your property purchases, and we do that by sharing guides, information and resources, inviting you to events such as this, connecting you with experts, helping you save money, and crucially, making this exciting step in your life as enjoyable as possible. With the travel restrictions starting to lift and the COVID situation looking like it is improving, we're seeing a real surge in demand for overseas properties at the moment. And it looks like it's going to be a busy few months for people buying and relocating overseas. So today, to share their expertise and help you on your buying journey, I am joined by Lazarus Omaru and Jeremy Wolf. Throughout today's session, we aim to answer as many of your burning questions as possible. And for those of you joining us live today, if you do have any questions that you want to put to the panelists, please feel free to ask these using the questions tab on the right-hand side of your screen. We also have one quick question that we want to put out to you, our audience. So if you wouldn't mind answering that via the polls section, that will really help us just to tailor today's session slightly for you. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker today, Lazarus from Omaru and Omaru Law. Now, Lazarus is a member of the Cyprus Bar Association. He speaks Greek and fluent English, and he's really well placed to support you in your purchases. So welcome, Lazarus, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
I would love it if you would start by just giving us a little bit of background into your firm and how you're able to help our British buyers who are looking to relocate to Cyprus.
Yes, my name is Lazarus Omaru, and I am an advocate and legal consultant, and also managing partner of Omaru and Omaru LLC, which is a law firm that is based in Paphos, Cyprus, a law firm with over 40 years of experience in the provision of legal services. We are so happy throughout all these years to have an extensive experience, especially in real estate transactions and immigration field. We have represented a lot of European and third country nationals in real estate transactions, and also have advised third country nationals on the submission of application and preparation of required documentation for obtaining immigration permits of the Republic of Cyprus. And we are also honored to be listed amongst the recommended law firms of the British High Commission in Cyprus. We are therefore eager to work with any potential purchaser to support him or her throughout the purchase process, from the negotiation till the completion of the sales agreement, as well as the immigration process.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lazarus. I mean, it sounds like a fantastic and really comprehensive service you have, which is excellent. Can you tell us a little bit about how then a British buyer who is looking to move permanently to Cyprus, a bit of background on what their options might be now for residency? Obviously, with Brexit, we understand that it's a little bit difficult now compared to what it was. So what sort of different immigration and visa options might a British person have now who was looking to relocate?
Yes, as you know very, very well, by the end of the transmission period, which lasted by February 2020 till the 31st of December of 2020, we have a total new regime, as the UK nationals are now considered as third country nationals. So in this case, by visiting Cyprus, they will not need to apply for a visa for a visitor. They can visit Cyprus and stay for 90 days as visitors, and at the same time they can extend their permit by obtaining the so-called temporary permit. So in the event that UK nationals wish to extend their stay, they can apply for this temporary residency permit, which is given in all the cases, I should say. Also, spouses and children of the applicants below the age of 18 can also apply. Just some words to say about this permit: that is valid only for 1 year, and this permit can be renewed on an annual basis. Holders of such permits are allowed to live in Cyprus as visitors without the right to work, and they cannot stay out of the country for more than 3 months continuously, as the permit will be cancelled. When in these cases, we are speaking about the mass majority of the potential buyers. They first choose to visit Cyprus, to have some viewings, to negotiate the properties. So after they decide to purchase properties, they have the right to obtain a permanent residency scheme, which is the so-called F category in the mass majority of the cases, because we are speaking about resale properties. It is estimated that more than 90% of the British expats or UK nationals choose to purchase resale properties. So in this case, they will apply for a permanent residency permit that will need to meet Cyprus immigration rules, as they are now considered third country nationals. Okay, future spouses and partners who are not covered by the withdrawal agreement and came or wish to come to Cyprus after the 31st of December will need to meet Cyprus immigration rules as well. So if a UK national who does not hold a residency document issued in Cyprus and cannot credibly evidence by other means, he must exercise free movement rights in the Republic of Cyprus before 31st of December. This is the only one difference we have after the withdrawal agreement has been completed. So in this case, we have the category F, which is a permanent residency permit which lasts forever. You will not need to issue a new permit like it happens in temporary permits, which are only annual. You need, as an applicant, to show annual income of at least 10,000 euros. And for every dependent, meaning spouse or children, up to the age of 18, an additional 5,000 euro for each of these. Applications are reviewed by the Immigration Board Control and the Minister of Interior. He will grant a final approval, and all this examination and processing of applications takes around 12 to 18 months, while this category would be, as I told, the most appropriate route for those wishing to retire in Cyprus and have savings or receive pension or income from abroad. Of course, we have the fast track category, Hannah. It is exactly the same legal status permanent residency scheme. It applies for the UK nationals who will choose to invest to a property of more than 300,000 euro, brand new properties purchased directly by the developing companies. In such a case, the permit will be issued within a very, very short period of 2 months. This is the only difference between the F category scheme and the registration 6.2 scheme, which is a fast track one. Hannah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lazarus. That's really, really helpful to understand all of the different processes and different types of permits. So thank you very much. You mentioned when you were talking about the category F permit about proving income. If a customer is retired, can they prove wealth by issuing bank statements if they don't have any formal and regular income because they've retired?
Definitely. It is accepted widely here in Cyprus as a proof of income, and he can apply under the category F without any problems.
Great, thank you, Lazarus. That's very helpful. Now, some customers who've joined us today have been asking about work permits and starting a business. So they would like to start a business out in Cyprus. Do they require visas for their staff who they want to have working in their business out there?
Unfortunately, the general rule is like this. Since now UK nationals are considered third country nationals, will receive the permanent residency scheme, but will not have the opportunity to work in Cyprus. What they can do, even though, is to register a Cypriot company, be shareholders, appoint a local guy, their lawyer, their accountant, anyone, a Cypriot, as a director, and run a business here in Cyprus and benefit from the business. They cannot be appointed as employees, but they can employ others, okay? And they can run a business and receive profits of this business activity.
Thank you. I hope that helps with the listener's query, and we will certainly put you in touch with Lazarus if you would like to discuss in a bit more detail how to do that.
Of course, Anna, I'm so sorry. Just to mention that for all those who happened to visit Cyprus before the end of the transitional period and obtained some rights by this period and the previous period in order to work, and they are working, the same status applies like the period before the Brexit. So they can keep on working and benefiting from all the rights won before the end of the transitional period.
Great, thank you, Lazarus. That's really helpful. A customer, Peter, has asked about opening a bank account in Cyprus, as well as proving income. He was saying, does he also need to open a Cypriot bank account, and does he need to deposit a certain amount of money in that bank account before being granted any residency?
Yes, and it is strongly advisable to do so. Nobody does need to, to keep these funds frozen. She can move these funds, she can make payments, she can run the account at her will. But in any case, it's advisable to open a bank account which discloses a very, very powerful connection with the state of the residency.
Yeah, that makes sense. That helps. Thank you very much. And in terms of the actual application process, though, whether it's the category F or whether it's the fast track because of the value of the property, when do customers actually start applying? Is it when they have actually arrived in Cyprus and perhaps they're renting a property before they've bought a property? Do they need to start applying when they're still here in the UK before they come out to Cyprus? How does the actual process work?
There is a wide possibility of doing so either in the UK or in Cyprus. In UK, the client can appoint his lawyer in Cyprus by issuing a power of attorney on the favor of the lawyer, and lawyer will undertake all the procedure from the preparation of the application and all necessary documentations till the submission of such application before the migration department. So this is the most efficient way that the mass majority is choosing to proceed. So as per the other question of starting the procedure before the purchase, of course, as I mentioned before, there is this possibility by applying for a temporary permit issued by the migration department, which lasts for 1 year. So the potential purchaser will solve the time issue because he will have secured a period of 1 year of fulfilling all his obligations and make his viewings and negotiations and all necessary steps in order to proceed to the purchase of the property.
That's very helpful advice. Thank you so much. Now, another question has come in from a listener, Helen, who has asked about taking a loan from a Cypriot bank. Are British nationals able to do that? If they come to Cyprus, they become resident in Cyprus, would they be able to take a loan from a local bank? Do you know?
Yes. Till a couple of months ago, they had the full advantage of requesting and obtaining a bank loan. Unfortunately, I was informed a couple of days ago that the policies have changed. At least what we have been informed by the major bank here in Cyprus, as per the British expats. We are still waiting for these new policies to be sent to the lawyers who are working with these banks, and we are, we have a status of introduction agreements with all of these banks. Still, this regime has not been clarified because traditionally Cypriot banks were offering loans to British expats, and we will keep up covering this area, and we will let you know very, very soon, Hannah.
Thank you. That's very helpful, Lazarus. And I'll make sure that the customers who are asking questions are put in contact with you. I'm conscious of our time, and we do need to talk to Jeremy about healthcare, but a couple more quick questions for you. Can a customer continue working for a UK company but live in Cyprus?
Of course, of course, of course.
Brilliant.
Since there is an employment agreement started before and is carrying on. Of course, we have already British expats who are working remotely under the new needs of the pandemic created. Under these circumstances, they can keep on working.
Great. Thank you. Very helpful. The next question is, somebody has asked, what kind of taxes or fees could they expect to pay when they buy a property?
It depends. It depends on the if the property is a brand new or it's an old one. It is about 1.5% of the total value of the property.
Very helpful. Thanks, Lazarus. And at time for, I think, one last quick question, which is possibly a difficult question to answer, because I think the situation is changing all the time at the moment. But a customer has asked, are Cyprus currently only allowing people into the country who have had double vaccinations against COVID? Or are there any other ways that people would be able to come into the country?
I have to admit that our government is quite strict under these conditions the pandemic created. No, so far they do not request for a double vaccinated person to enter the country, but it needs at least a PCR or a rapid test of the last 72 hours in order to enter freely Cyprus.
Great. Thank you very much, Lazarus, and thank you for clarifying everything. I feel that we could stay and talk for a lot longer today. There's so much that we could cover here, but I will make sure for anybody listening in who has specific queries they need answering still or wants to discuss in more detail, we will make sure that we share Lazarus's details again via email, so you're able to contact him directly. But next up, we do need to move on to our second panelist of the day, Jeremy Wolf of MedAssurance. Now, Jeremy has worked within the field of insurance for a number of years. He's got a wealth of experience and expertise and connections, so he's really well placed to help you understand what sort of policies you're going to need when you make your move out to Cyprus. So welcome today, Jeremy. Thank you again for joining us at these sessions. Can you start by kicking us off by giving us a bit of background information into what you do, what MedAssurance do, and how you can help our listeners?
I and the company MediSurance, we just specialize in providing private medical insurance to company employees who are looking to move abroad, to individuals who are looking to sell up and move abroad. And I'm just looking to help make sure they have all the right documentation in terms of private medical insurance to go with their applications, so that there's no pitfalls when it comes to the last stage. So we just specialize in that field of medical insurance, both on the individual market and on the international market. So really what I do is very simple compared to Lazarus.
Thank you, Jeremy. That's a great start and a great introduction. So I guess an important place to start, which a lot of people will be wondering about, post-Brexit, are the EHIC cards still valid, and will they still be useful if customers are relocating to Cyprus?
Yes and no. The EHIC cards are still valid if you have a valid one. If you don't, you'll need to obtain the G, which is the global one, which will just replace the EH. However, if you're looking to move abroad permanently, the suggestion is always make sure you have the right policy in place that covers you for all eventualities. It's a bit like the difference between travel insurance and private medical insurance. A travel insurance policy is designed that if you go abroad for your holidays, you become ill or injured, you go to your hospital or your doctors and you pay for those costs and reclaim them on your insurance policy when you get back home. With an international policy, it's the same as any normal policy in a country. It covers you for all eventualities. If you become ill or injured, you speak to the provider, you get an authorization code, and they take care of all the costs. The policies are an annual policy, and they are very different to travel policies. So for that full peace of mind, the international policy is the way to go.
Great, very helpful advice. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Now, we've obviously talked about international policies. What might the position be on getting access to public funded healthcare? Obviously, we're very used to using the NHS in this country. Would a British citizen moving to Cyprus, securing their visa with Lazarus, would they then be able to get access to any kind of Cypriot state care, or would they need a policy, do you think?
Experience tells us that you may not necessarily qualify for the public system in Cyprus. If Lazarus will be able to clarify this, but if I'm right in saying that if you're earning more than 35,000 euros or individuals making more than 20,000 euros, you may not be covered by the public system. And that's where the international policy kicks in. Or once you've got your residency, you then take out a local policy, because medical insurance in Cyprus, from what I understand, is expensive. And if you're caught without a policy or some form of security to make sure that all those costs are paid, you could end up with significant costs.
That makes sense, Jeremy. Absolutely, better to be safe than sorry, certainly on that. So if a customer was thinking of heading out to Cyprus, a lot of the people listening in today have said that they're looking to get out to Cyprus in the next 6 months. How early should they kind of start a conversation with you to start planning their policies?
I would say there's two sides to that coin. You can either say, let's start talking now, which will give you an indication of what those costs are, or you can wait until you've sold your property in the UK or you've purchased the property out there. But if you just want an indication of the costs, we can start the conversation now, because what I tend to do is I'll go to the market, I'll get initial costings, because private medical insurance is based on your age and the benefits that you take out, and no two policies can cost the same. It just can't work that way. So you could have a husband and wife who might be 5 years apart, and their premiums can be quite different. So I always say is, if it's your intention to start moving, let's start a conversation to understand what it is you want. For example, yeah, I've had some clients that have purely come to me and said, look, I want the most cost-effective policy because all I want it for is to obtain a residency or a visa. Others are saying, you know what, I want to go there. I want peace of mind. You know, just give me everything you can on it. I don't mind the cost because I want to go out there, get myself sorted out. You know, if something were to happen, I'm fully covered. So, you know, and sometimes, you know, I'll go to the providers, get you some quotes. The client will come back and say, hey, Jeremy, I was expecting it to be a lot more, or wow, it's more than I expected. What can we do? And so we start that conversation, and then I go back and forth with the provider until we find something which works. Does that answer the question?
That's great to know, Jeremy. It certainly sounds like a really comprehensive service that you've got there. So thank you for clarifying that. Can you talk us a little bit about how you go about getting a policy then? What information do you need from clients, and how many different providers would you go out to get them the right policy?
With private medical insurance, it can be one of the easiest types of insurance to obtain in terms of information. All I need from the client are dates of birth and obviously the country you're going to. And that is all I need to start my initial process. Once I have that information, I'll then normally approach. In the first instance, I just start with 2, only to get a feel of where that premium sits. In general, most private medical insurance providers premiums tend to be, give or take, within 15-20% of each other. Now, the difference is what lies behind that policy and what is actually covered. And you can, and again, and that's where we come into what do you want, what do you not want, what can we take out if it's too costly, what can we add in to give you more. But there are probably about 6 or 7 main providers that I can or would approach. But in the first instance, I start with 2, at a max 3, just to get the ball rolling, to get an indication of cost.
Very helpful. Thank you, Jeremy. Now, quick question, but potentially a difficult one to answer. On those costs, do you have any indication of the sorts of ballpark we might be in? Say a 60-year-old individual going to Cyprus, any ideas what the sort of thing they might pay per year?
Hang on, let me put our finger in the air. Again, it comes down to, I hear what you're saying about the age, and we know where they're going. My guess, it could be anything between, again, 300 and 600, because we can start off, we can have a policy with no excess, i.e. a bit like car insurance, higher your excess, lower the premium. So I would start off with, you know, maybe a small excess and then the next size up excess. But the higher the excess, the lower the premium. Some clients don't want an excess. They're saying, if I need to claim, I don't want to get involved. I just want the provider to take care of everything for me. Others will say, I want to go, but I need a premium we can afford. We appreciate we're going to Cyprus, and there are limitations. There are certain criteria we have to adhere to. But how can we get that premium down? And so therefore it could be, let's say, anything between even 250 up to 600. It all depends on what you want on that policy. And that's why when I start off with a basic, and then I work from that with the client, say, okay, up, down, and the client could end up with maybe a dozen different variations until we get to what you want.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jeremy. I mean, I think that the overriding thing that I'm really hearing is there's got to be a conversation about this. People have got to start thinking about it, got to start talking to you and really sort of planning out what they need. So I think if we've learned anything, it's definitely to have the conversation and start thinking about it early.
Because again, there are some major criteria in terms of, you know, pre-existing conditions.
Ah, well, that was what I was actually going to ask you next. You read my mind, Jeremy. What happens about pre-existing conditions? Are they covered? Are they not? Can you give any indication for the listeners about that?
When it comes to international policies, there's 3 ways we can join. One which is called a moratorium, which means that any condition you've had in the last 5 years wouldn't be covered for the first 2 years. But then you have, which most providers use, is full medical underwriting. And that means that you have to answer a list of 21 questions. If you say yes to any of the questions listed, the provider may impose an exclusion on that policy. The last one is, if you currently have a UK policy with a UK provider, I can switch that UK policy into an international policy, again, depending on who they're currently insured with. So whether it's AXA, Bupa, Aviva, they all have international arms. So we can move it into there. The premiums could be costly, but if you have a pre-existing condition you need to have covered, that may be the route to go. But if you've never had medical insurance, that's when I need to have that conversation about what pre-existing conditions you currently have. Because some providers won't take specific, if you've had specific ailments, they will not offer you medical insurance. So I need to have that conversation with the client prior to going to the market.
Good advice. Thank you so much, Jeremy. And I hope that has answered a lot of the questions coming through today. We are getting a lot of queries about pricing and things like that. So I will put you all in touch with Jeremy afterwards to discuss in more detail, because yeah, we could spend a long time, I think, discussing all the various different parameters. And I'm conscious of our time today. Another question that's come in, Jeremy, which is an interesting one. Can you get dentistry covered as part of the policy?
With most policies, they all cover dental treatment. And again, they offer different levels of cover, ranging from basic to full, whatever you want. Again, the higher the level, the higher the cost. But yes, with most, again, that's something when I look at an insurer to start with, I will always include dental on the policy, because it's something that most clients tend to want. So yes, we can, but then if you want to reduce costs, we then can take it out.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeremy. And I hope that answered the listener's question. Now, onto prescriptions. If a customer has an existing prescription that they are getting in the UK at the moment, would their policies cover the cost of getting a prescription out in Cyprus? Can you give us sort of any indication on how the prescription process might work?
It's the same as dental. It can be added to the policy with no problem at all. If I can come back to you on that one, Hannah, I'd be grateful on how the process works in Cyprus. I'm not 100% clear on that, and I don't want to lead anybody astray by not having the correct information. But but prescriptions can be covered, yes, as an optional extra.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, there was a specific query on that, so I will make sure to put you in touch with that customer who
Please do, and I'll answer the question for them.
Thank you. And the last question I wanted to ask, which I think is quite a helpful one for people to sort of get an indication. Do you have a recommended provider for Cyprus? Is there somebody that you regularly use, or is there a lot of sort of players in the market that people could consider?
There's all international providers cover Cyprus. One of my preferred providers is a company called Cigna International. What I like about Cigna is that if you are going to a country and you're going to stay there, and this is important, and you're there for more than 6 months, they offer a policy called close care, which means it will cover you purely for that country and the originating country, which is the UK, from my side, to put that policy in place. The reason they do that is it keeps the cost down, because you're not having to take out a full European policy or even a policy to cover the USA. You're merely covering those 2 countries. So it does keep the cost down. So Cigna, in that respect, is one of my preferred. If they're not spending more than 6 months a year, then I will look more afield for others that are also as competitive as Cigna.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jeremy. That's been fantastic. And I think we could, as with Lazarus, we could talk on all day and answer lots of queries on this, but I'm conscious of our time, and I'm conscious that people want to get back to their evening. So thank you to you, Jeremy. Thank you to you, Lazarus, for the fantastic insight and advice that you've shared today. As I explained at the beginning, we will get in contact with everybody via email, share our speakers' contact details, and also send you a replay of today's session if you want to share it with family or friends or refresh your memory on anything. Thank you so much to you all for joining us today. We really hope that COVID eases off in the next few months and you're able to get out to Cyprus and really kind of start this next step in your journey to buy property there. So thank you all again for joining us. We wish you a very, very happy move. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye, Anna. Bye, Jeremy.